Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Please note this meeting is going to be recorded and made available on the MRCA's project website and be sent to everyone who's registered. And before we begin, I'd like to point out that the Spanish interpretation features for those who might need it. So to listen to this meeting in Spanish, please click the interpretation button and select the language from the menu. And once you're in the Spanish channel, the interpretation icon will be replaced by an icon that represents the Spanish language. Thank you. And so my name is Rachel Fox, and I serve as Supervisor Horvath's Arts and Community Services Deputy. And tonight we're holding this virtual meeting on the Mission Canyon Park project because the supervisor and our team, as well as our partners, want to make sure the community is informed about the project, its scope, the current status and timeline for the project, and have the opportunity to hear directly from our partners who are working on this project. We will have the opportunity to hear from our relevant partners and have the MRCA present on the park project. I'm sorry, Will, can we make sure to advance to the agenda slide? Want to make sure. Thank you. Can we advance? Great, thank you. Sorry. And so for the agenda for tonight, we'll have the presentation on the MRCA will present on the park project itself. We'll hold for questions and answers at the end, and then wrap with next steps. And then for the next slide, we will have the Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom. And we appreciate everybody who submitted questions in advance. We received a good number of questions on Eventbrite when you registered. That'll be really helpful for everybody who's joined tonight. But please feel free to ask additional questions throughout the presentation in that Q&A box. We have a number of our team who will be monitoring the Q&A box, and we'll capture your questions and make sure they're answered during the Q&A portion at the end of our meeting. And so I'd like to make sure to introduce our partners this evening and begin with my colleague, Mandy.
Hey there, I'm Mandy Laughlin. I am Supervisor Horvath's Field Deputy for the Mission Canyon Park area. I cover the majority of the hillside communities, as well as Brentwood, Hollywood, West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, all the way down to our southern border.
Yeah, MRCA.
Hi, I'm Julian Buenaventura. I'm a project manager with the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority. And I have my colleague here, Sophia.
Afternoon, everybody. Sophia Aleman, Chief of Park Development with the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority. We're part of the park development team here at MRCA.
Kearns and West.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joan Isaacson with Kearns and West. We're a firm that helps government agencies with community engagement. So I'll be helping later in the meeting, facilitating the Q&A.
LA County Chief Executive Office, Real Estate Division.
Hi, I'm Joyce Chang. I'm with the CEO Real Estate Division, and I'm joined by my colleague, Michael. Do you want to say hi?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Michael Rodriguez. I'm a section head for county-owned properties.
LA County Sanitation District.
Hello, everyone. My name is Colin Brown. I am the site engineer for Mission Canyon Landfill with the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts, and I work in the Solid Waste Operations and Engineering Department. And I'm here with my colleague Derek and Doug.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. So I'll hand it off to Julia now to talk about the project.
Great, thank you. Will, could you? Thank you. My name again is Julian Buenaventura, project manager with the MRCA. I have been on the Mission Canyon project since 2022, and just want to thank the supervisor's office for giving us opportunity to present today. So next slide, please. Just a little overview of what we're going to discuss today. we're going to do a little bit about the project overview, the CEQA process that MRCA went through, next steps, and then we'll go into the Q&A section. Next slide, please. We would like to acknowledge that Mission Canyon Landfill and MRCA Parkland are situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Tongava, Fernandino, Tataviam, and Chumash peoples. Next slide, please. Just to provide a little bit of context, in the yellow is where the proposed Mission Canyon Park would be, and in the green are the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and MRCA properties that we own and manage. And so you can see that with Mission Canyon, it's a piece of this open space puzzle. And with Mission Canyon, once that project is developed, it would add more to the open space in the Santa Monica Mountains area off of Mulholland and off of the 405. And we see it as a big connector to this area of open space. And there is potential for future property that MRCA and SMMC would own and operate with Sullivan and Rustic Canyons. And so, you know, going further into this, there is a license agreement that MRCA and the county have to sign. And with that license agreement, there is potential for 2 lots that could be sold that would help with some of the cost of the project for the intersection, and also a land transfer of Sullivan and Rustic Canyon, which is shown in the purple. And so just want to illustrate that it would provide more open space to the area that MRCA and SMMC would oversee. So next slide, please. So to provide a little bit of the project history, the landfill has been closed for over 40 years, and ultimately its intended use after operation was to be converted for open space and passive recreation purposes. MRCA and the county want to continue to work with the community to design and manage passive outdoor recreation. So passive outdoor recreation is examples of walking, hiking, areas to read, providing picnic tables, safe areas to essentially recreate outdoors. So an MRCA received funding from LA County in 2014 and 2015 from Caltrans, and we started the CEQA process in 2018 for the Mission Canyon project, and we completed CEQA in 2022. Next slide, please. And the next one as well. So here is Mission Canyon Park. The project plan is to create a 2.5-mile loop that's seen in the yellow dash, trail steps, trail connection to, we see also an additional trail connection to regional trails. There is a parking lot or trailhead down at Sepulveda. That would be the main entrance to Mission Canyon Park. We also have a proposed park staff residence. There's also native planting that we would put at the trailhead, as well as restrooms, utility room at the main entrance. All of the areas that we would propose these trails and these facilities on are areas of development that are previously disturbed. So next slide, please. And then this is just another illustration of the park project. Again, to better illustrate, in the orange, you can see that new trail connection that is being connected to Canyon Back Trail, and that would open up a new connection to open space through the Santa Monica Mountains area. Next slide, please. And here's a close-up of the parking lot. So at the entrance, we would have a automated vehicular gate and pedestrian gate at the entrance. We would also have a vehicular and pedestrian gate at the start of the trail, which you would see more so on the left side of your screen, kind of where that circle drive is. This is to ensure that no vehicles enter the trail besides emergency personnel and those living in the staff residence. This is designed for 131 parking spots, and there are 5 that are ADA accessible. So we also have a restroom and a utility room proposed. There's picnic tables, a nature log area for nature play that is situated kind of towards the beginning of the trail. We also have fencing with a vehicular gate and pedestrian gate I mentioned at the entrance of the trail, but also fencing that would go in certain areas of the parking lot so that LA sanitation buildings would be fenced off and they'd have a gate access, but also to help keep people in the parking lot and stay towards the beginning of the trail. So next slide, please. And we also have proposed fitness stairs. There are 2 sections that are proposed that also intersect the 2.5-mile loop. There are 360 steps proposed in total for these fitness stairs. Next slide, please. The staff residence would also sit kind of towards the beginning of the trail. This staff residence was included after the community voiced concerns about park safety. The staff residence sits again at the beginning of the loop trail and will be fenced off from the public as well. Next slide, please. And again, this is just another close-up of the trail connection to Canyon Back that would also help create a new trail to the open space adjacent to Mission Canyon Park. Next slide, please. So here you can kind of see some of the features, the project benefits that we would have at Mission Canyon. And based on the community engagement, many factors were considered. So I mentioned before, the park staff residence was added. When we also went to the community for CEQA, there was a lot of talk about fire readiness. So there was a helipad that was recently installed, I believe, at the top of Mulholland. So that is there for, fire readiness, securing existing sanitation facilities. That is something that LA County and LA County Sanitation, was working on as well. Providing emergency vehicle access, and there was a proposed second entrance to Mission Canyon off of Mulholland, but from the community, they voiced a lot of concerns about that, and so that is not an entrance. The only entrance is down at Sepulveda, but the Mulholland Drive, there will be emergency access available in case of emergencies, as well as for fire preparedness. There will also be regular patrols. We also have MRCA has their own rangers. We would have rangers patrol the site as well. And of course, you would call 911 in case of emergency, but we would have ranger services number posted for additional support. Next slide, please. And in 2018, when MRCA completed the initial study and the mitigated negative declaration document to meet the CEQA requirement, the public comment period, the community noted areas of the project that should be studied further, and they wanted us to look into the traffic into Sepulveda. A feasibility study was conducted with input from LADOT and Caltrans, and in 2020, that study was presented to the public, demonstrating 2 new signalized intersection entry options and the cost estimates for that parks project. There was 2 options. We did the preferred alternative, which was option B, and we'll discuss that within the next 2 slides. So what was studied in the traffic study was synchronization, simulation, traffic software that looked at current signal timing provided by LADOT and on-site traffic observations. They looked at a range of inputs such as light cycles, queue lengths, vehicle lengths, driver behaviors, vehicle responsiveness, among other conditions. So here in this picture, you see the current existing conditions. So right now, there's only a light at Mountain Gate Drive, and there's only a light at Sepulveda Boulevard and off the 405 ramp. If you go to the next slide, Will. So this here shows the proposed intersection. So the alternative option B that was selected, it uses the existing Mission Dump Road, which we also refer to as Mission Canyon Road, and puts a light at that stop and Sepulveda. It requires a configuration regrading to improve that geometry and moderate grading in that section. What it also was going to do is add a southbound right turn lane into Mission Canyon Park. This signal would also interconnect with Mountain Gate Drive. So for instance, if you're turning left on Mountain Gate Drive and you would like to go into Mission Canyon Park, you could enter that left turn lane and that light signal would be synchronized with Mountain Gate so that you could turn into it immediately, safely into there. So northbound protected left turn phase into the park can run concurrently with the northbound left turn phase into Mountain Gate Drive. And if you would like to see more in-depth detail of the traffic study, we do have a link on our Mission Canyon Park.org website. We had a community meeting in October of 2020, and we had a project manager that discussed it around 9:12, minute 9:12, and you can get more details about that. Next slide, please. So the initial study was prepared by MRCA to provide substantial evidence for the lead agency to use as a basis for determining which environmental document would be the most appropriate. So the mitigated negative declaration was deemed appropriate where mitigation measures are provided that would reduce the level of significance down. So here are the 15 resource areas. Next slide, please. And then that's in Spanish. Next slide, please. So the mitigation measures that were added, I'm sorry, I think we're missing a slide, but there were 4 resource mitigation items added: biological resource, noise, hazards and hazardous resources, utilities and service systems. And there was 6 mitigation measures that were added on top of that. Those were all items that were, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. All items that were minuscule, small, that would not require further mitigation. And I can find those notes for you if anyone has further questions about that, those 6 mitigation measures. Next slide, please. And so the notification for the CEQA public engagement were distributed notice of intent as noted here in the slide. And then we also consulted with Native American tribes for AB 52, and we accepted comments for 30 days. Next slide, please. And with that notification requirement that applied to this project, we also did the public engagement where we went above and beyond the minimum requirements. So during December 2021 and January 2022, the notice of intent was widely distributed here as noted. So the full MND documents were available for review in person and online at 5 locations. Next slide, please. And with the tribal engagement, we had contacted 8 California Native American tribes. Of the 8 contacted, only 1 responded, coming back to the state that the project was not in their area and would not request consultation from the lead agency. Next slide, please. And with the public comment period, typically it's done within 30 days. We did 45 days, so we exceeded the 30 days required. The start was delayed a few weeks to not overlap with the December holiday season. While not required by CEQA for an MND, a public meeting was held via Zoom during the public comment period on February 17, 2022. We advertised for this meeting on social media and we emailed previous attendees, interested parties via email listserv. And even though the lead agency has no affirmative duty to prepare formal responses to the comments on the MND, we did respond to all the comments. We also provided written comments that went above and beyond the environmental issues of CEQA as well. Next slide, please. And of the comments that we received during the public comment period, we received 31. 4 were from homeowner or citizen organizations, 10 individual letters, 1 from Cal Department of Fish and Wildlife, 1 from the California Native American tribes. And then during the public comment Zoom meeting that we had, we did receive 15 comments within the chat participation. Next slide, please. And so the comments that we received were those that were outside of CEQA scope, but we did provide a robust response document that we can reference as well. That is included within the CEQA. Next slide, please. And then next one as well. So the next steps, right now we are trying to work out a license agreement with LA County. And we hope once this meeting takes place, afterwards we can get the draft finalized, get it to the Board of Supervisors for their approval. And we project that it probably would take the next couple of months to do so. And then MRCA has already approved a draft version of that license agreement with our governing board. And so once the Board of Supervisors approves the licensing agreement, we can move forward into the permitting process. So at the same time, though, in the fall, we hope to work with our consultant and complete the design and construction documents. In 2027, we hope to begin the permitting process. We project it'll take us about a year to get all the permits necessary to get the park open and for the construction. And then by spring of 2028, that is when we estimate the start of construction to start. It might take us at least a year to 15 months once construction starts. So the projected date of the park opening might be something in 2029. So that concludes our presentation for today. Thank you again for letting us describe the project to us. If you have further questions, I have my contact information here as well. And then I think we'll jump into the Q&A section.
Thanks, Julian. That was great. Appreciate that. Joan will help us facilitate the Q&A.
Yes. And Julian, thanks for setting the stage and giving us such good updates. So we have questions. What I'm going to do is I will identify the partner because as we've heard, there are multiple partners who've been involved in this site over the years. So I'll identify the partner and then the question. So Julian, this first one is for MRCA. It's a two-part question. And I'll give both parts to you and then can help with the second part again. So the question is, whose project is this, and who are the council members or the supervisors who actually were involved in the project effort?
Yeah, so the project is a partnership between MRCA and the County of Los Angeles, which is the landowner. So MRCA is operating as the project developer and will steward the park after it opens. And MRCA is responsible for the design, permitting, construction, development, and park operation after Mission Canyon opens. And the council members and supervisors who are involved in the Mission Canyon effort, we have SD3, which is the District of Supervisor Lindsey Horvath. We also have some of the park is in CD11, which is Council Member Tracy Park and her staff, and they are aware of this project, as well as CD5, which is Council Member Yarzlowski and her staff have also been informed of this project.
Good. Thanks, Julian. The next question is for MRCA again, and it has to do with funding and timing. The question is, how much will the entire project cost, and how long will it take to turn the site into a park?
So we have had a cost estimate done, and it's forecasted to cost around $6 million just for Mission Canyon Park itself, not including the intersection or any hardening project scope. How long will it take to turn into a park? Again, I think I had mentioned with the construction schedule, it's possible that it could take 12 to 15 months. And we project if everything goes on the right timeline, 2028 is maybe when we could start construction.
Okay, thank you. MRCA again. This question has to do with the site's history as a landfill. And the question is, how safe is it to convert the former landfill into a public park? And has the soil been tested?
So MRCA, we can't really speak to the maintenance of the landfill controls and monitoring as that's performed by LA County Sanitation. But as what we understand, it's always LA County's objective to turn the former landfill into a passive recreation space. The county has to abide by city, local, state, and federal jurisdictions to ensure any pollutants are contained and methane gas is properly disposed of. And as far as the soil being tested, I'm unaware of it being tested, so I'd have to look into an answer to that further.
Great, thank you. We're going to take another question related to the site's history as a landfill. This time, this question is for Sanitation District. And the question is, when did the landfill start receiving refuse and when did it cease receiving refuse? So what were those years of operation?
Sure, I can go ahead and answer that. Thank you again for everybody joining. My name's Colin Brown. Mission Canyon Landfill, it was utilized and operated by the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts as a Class 3 landfill from 1960 to 1965. All waste accepted at the site consisted of municipal non-hazardous solid waste, and an estimated 5.3 million tons of waste was accepted at Mission Canyon Landfill during its operational lifetime.
Thanks. We'll take another question. Also for sanitation districts, what are the environmental control systems that are currently maintained at the landfill?
Sure. So we have several environmental controls. We have a landfill gas collection and control system. This includes gas extraction wells, landfill gas transport lines, and a flare station. We also have landfill gas condensate lines, irrigation systems, sewer infrastructure, and stormwater drainage systems. We also maintain both paved and unpaved roads, so our site can have access to these environmental controls. We monitor all of these systems. Some examples are the landfill gas collection and control system. We monitor that weekly to comply with South Coast Air Quality Management District regulations. We also have landfill gas perimeter probes that are monitored monthly to verify that the landfill gas is not migrating beyond the landfill boundaries, like underground. We also do surface gas monitoring in our Lower Canyon 1 to evaluate the effectiveness of the landfill gas extraction system. We also have on-site staff that are present during weekdays to inspect, operate, and maintain the landfill's environmental control systems like the irrigation system, landscaping, some of the other stormwater facilities, and other site infrastructure.
Thank you. Another question for sanitation districts. So you talked about the monitoring systems, the frequency of the monitoring. There has been a question about stormwater. So the question is, with the stormwater systems that you monitor, where does the water go?
Yeah, so it eventually makes its way off-site. So once it hits the landfill surface, it goes through a network of berms, line drainage channels, storm drains, and other drainage features. The landfill is also carefully graded in a way that the rainfall flows away from the waste-filled areas and does not collect or pond on the landfill surface. After being directed away, it goes through a concrete line drainage channel before entering the local storm drain system.
Okay, Colin, just don't go away. We have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
So one of the questions has to do with the refuse again, and wondering, can you clarify which part of the property is filled with the refuse?
Yeah, so there's a total of 3 canyons that are located mostly in the northern portion of the site. We call these canyons 1, 2, and 3. Canyon 1 is kind of further divided into 2 areas. So we have Upper Canyon 1, which on that map is closer to Mulholland, and then we have Lower Canyon 1, which is where we do the surface gas.
Good, thank you. And more questions about the refuse. So what is covering the buried refuse? Is it more soil, or what's been used over the years to cover it up?
Yeah, so we have a protective soil cap throughout the final cover of the site. It ranges approximately 3 to 7 feet thick, depending on the location at the site. The soil cap is designed to isolate the waste from the surrounding environment, limit landfill gas emissions, reduce rainwater infiltration, and prevent direct exposure to waste. the LA County sanitation districts, we regularly inspect and maintain the soil cover to ensure it continues to perform as intended. And if there's any repairs that need to be done, we also fill in those areas as well. So we regularly inspect that.
Good, thanks for that additional information. Back to MRCA. The question has to do with fencing. Will the park be fenced? And then there's a follow-up to that about what will the park hours be?
Yeah, so the park will be fenced and park hours will be sunrise to sunset, which is standard for MRCA parks. Again, back to the fencing, the proposed fencing is at the parking lot off of Sepulveda. So again, we are proposing a vehicular gate, hopefully getting it automated with a pedestrian gate at that entrance. And then we have agency fencing along with chain link fencing that's proposed around the parking lot to help enclose LA County sanitation hardware and then also to help direct public access. A vehicular gate and pedestrian gate is also provided at the beginning of the trailhead. So the vehicular gate is only for emergency access and access to the MRCA staff residence, and those gates will be open and closed daily.
All right, thanks. Julian, another question for MRCA. This has to do with fire season and fire risk. Fire season feels like it's year round. Now, what measures are planned for security and fire protection?
So MRCA does have their own fire and ranger division. So MRCA rangers will patrol Mission Canyon Park once the park is opened. MRCA's fire division will be available to respond to fire emergencies as well. LA County Fire has that helipad at the top of Mulholland, as well as a water tank, I believe, for emergencies. MRCA Fire is typically deployed for highly developed resources where local fire departments wouldn't come. So the residents' homes adjacent to Mission Canyon are under LAFD purview. So MRCA Fire cannot address structure fires.
Okay, thank you. Julian, for MRCA again. The question is, will there be a ranger on site 24/7? And are there plans to have a permanent ranger station and ongoing presence there by a ranger?
So we won't have a ranger that's available on site 24/7. The project design does include a staff residence. However, it can be anyone eligible for staff housing. So rangers, our park operations staff, and also fire staff. So all staff and agency housing, they have duties to the assigned park, including monitoring, minor maintenance, and opening and closing the site.
Okay, so with the residents, the staff will, it sounds like someone would be living there for most times.
Correct.
Okay. The next question has to do, Julian, again for you, for MRCA, about dogs, and then a follow-up question related to use of the trail. So the first part is, will dogs be allowed in the park? And then the second part is, will vehicles, motorbikes, and or horses be allowed on the trails?
So dogs will be allowed on leash, and for the trails within the park, those will only be accessible to pedestrians, bicycles, and emergency maintenance vehicles. For reference, we do have an ordinance for all our MRCA parks about bicycles and motorized travel, and so no person should really operate a motor vehicle or motorcycle, motorized bike, electric bike in a paved roadway or parking lot unless specifically authorized by posted signage. So that's who won't be able to use the trails.
Another operational question for you, Julian. Will there be parking on site? And if so, will there be a cost to park?
Yeah, so at the Sepulveda entrance, which is the only entrance into Mission Canyon, there will be the trailhead, the parking lot, which has designed for 131 parking spots there. And the rate for that parking lot is not yet determined, but it will be comparable with market rates.
Thank you. Another question about the park and its use. The question is, Can the park be limited to use by residents only?
So the project's located on publicly owned land and will be improved using public funds. Therefore, the park would be open to the public at large.
Another MRCA question, and this is a question about the project design, park design. How does the project design incorporate measures to keep visitors away from homes around the park?
So new trails aren't planned to be located directly adjacent to the private property. Signage will be installed along the trails to direct people to stay on the trail, while also regular monitoring by rangers and park staff throughout the day. If there are homeowners who have built stairs or other private access points into the open space, they may wish to secure any, entrance or exit on their property as they see appropriate. But if there is a specific concern about your property or their property, they can reach out to LA County.
Julian, you mentioned gates during the presentation. This is a follow-up question. Will the gates be locked at the end of each day?
Yes, so gates will be locked when the park closes each day. We are proposing to have an automated gate as well too, so that if individuals are behind the gate and the park is closed, they'll be able to leave at the main entrance. And MRCA staff will check the park before securing the gate, though, for sure.
Okay. Another question for you. What types of plants and trees will be planted to help mitigate the fire risk at the park?
So MRCA likes to plant native. We do a lot of native planting, and so native trees that will be planted there, native plants in the trailhead is what we're designating.
Joan, I'll add a slight clarification to that as well in terms of fire hardening. Currently, the site is still going to be operated by LA Sanitation, and brushing is one of their post-closure operative requirements. So that's going to be almost layered efforts on the site. MRCA will reinforce with native planting wherever landscaping does take place. Brushing will be ongoing, and the structures themselves that we're proposing on site, including the restroom and the utility building, are all being evaluated to make sure they have fire hardened materials as well.
Great, thanks, Sophia. MRCA, a question now about the trail design and the trail planning. Can you explain how the project will connect to Canyon Back Trail?
So in several of the slides that we showed, there would be a new connection to Canyon Back, and so there's a proposed, it almost looks like a squiggly snake, but that would be already on previously disturbed soils. That would connect to Canyon Back, and so that way, if people who entered Mission Canyon Park at the bottom wanted to utilize getting into Canyon Back, they could do so off of Sepulveda now.
Another question about parking, Julian. Can you share the number of parking spots that have been identified in the plan?
So there are 131 design spots in the trailhead, and 5 of those are ADA available. So yeah, we have 131 proposed.
Okay, and another part of this question was a comment that this proportion of the parking to the size of the park seems different to the proportion of parking spaces and other open space parks like this. So just wanted to ask if you have any observations or if there's any other additional information about the number of spaces.
Yeah, I can take that one if you'd like, Joan. Within the community engagement process, one of the concerns was also the park itself providing impacts to local neighborhoods. So the parking lot has been sized to accommodate what we think will be like a very high use, but not full the whole time, so that we're not burdening our local neighbors in the area, providing all the resources that the park users will need on site, and not have to park off the street. We have seen in other MRCA locations, parking lots getting very full on weekends. And so we want to be able to make sure that it's not causing a burden to local communities. And so that's what was sized through that M&D process.
Okay, thank you. Another question about on-site amenities here. There's a question about are there plans for barbecue pits within the park?
Not at this time.
No.
No. Okay. And another question for MRCA. This has to do with cell phone service within the park. Will there be consideration for improving cell phone service within the park in case there's an emergency and park visitors need to dial 911?
And so far, we haven't heard or seen of any low spots in the canyon area. When we've been out there on site visits, we've been able to reach folks, but we will definitely take that into note as we're evaluating that to be able to have access. And our rangers themselves have both cell phones, but as well as radios to be able to communicate to local agencies.
Okay. MRCA, a question about the construction process. The question is, will there be any construction activity coming into the area from the north side of the park via Mulholland? Or will the construction ingress be on the southern end of Sepulveda?
So any construction equipment would have to come through the main entrance off of Sepulveda. Mulholland is just an entrance that is for emergency access only, and no contractor would need to go up there.
Okay, so only the Sepulveda entry point.
Correct.
Another question for you all is, will there be security cameras on site?
That is something we have not determined, no.
They're not currently part of the design. However, MRCA has been adding more security cameras to our existing parkland, so I wouldn't cross it off the list. It's just not part of our current design considerations, but it may be part of a future operating item that we add on.
Okay. All right, changing gears here a little bit. Sanitation districts, you're back up. This could also be the CEO. So the question is, who owns Sullivan Canyon and Rustic Canyon?
Maybe county CEO or Doug, if you're on the call, if you happen to know that.
Hey, good evening. I'm Doug Harmon. I'm a senior rural property agent with the sanitation districts. Yes, the Rustic Sullivan Canyon is owned entirely by the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. That was acquired, I don't have the year off the top of my head, but that was acquired years ago with the intention of potentially developing that into a landfill and a future time. However, that never materialized. There was never any refuse was ever placed there. But yes, the Rustic Sullivan Canyon is owned by the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts.
Great, thank you for providing that information.
Thank you, Joan. And I just want to add a question, additional question about the future plans for the transfer of those. And so we have been in discussions with sanitation about looking at that as a possibility of transferring it and looking at it with the county. So we can provide an update as we get closer to that point, but I'll share that at a later time. And then we did get another question as well about the status of funding for the traffic signal at Sepulveda, and with the understanding of that this piece of the project is important, and in order for the park project to open, that this component needs to be done. And so the county's committed We will be working with our Department of Public Works to secure and identify funds for that part of the project. So wanted to confirm that. Thank you. And so let's for the next question.
Let's see. MRCA, back over to you. And this is a question about wildlife within the park area. What are the provisions and the expectations for wildlife?
Provisions and expectations. MRC is not planning on putting any infrastructure in that would prevent any, movement of wildlife within the area. So nothing to impede, nor are we kind of blocking off any access areas. I'm not sure if that answers the question. But yes, we're only providing kind of passive recreational access. No active recreation is anticipated to be taking place on the site that may deter other wildlife in the area.
There's a follow-up question to the discussion we've had thus far about on the on-site parking. And the question is there a reason why the parking isn't planned to be free?
Yes, absolutely. So we've had currently MRCA, we've had a couple of free parking lots. The closest that comes to mind is Will Acre, that has actually recently pivoted from being a free parking lot to a paid parking lot because operational costs have exceeded revenue and also funding that we received from the county, understanding that budgets are tight this time of year was reduced. So in order to accommodate that budget deficit, MRCA decided to impose a fee. And actually, reactions what we've received to date so far, and also from publications, have been understanding that it is to meet an operational requirement. So that's why we're saying market rate, but comparable to what MRCA has put forth, and it's really intended solely to help support operational costs within the area. So it's been understanding of most community members that have visited other MRCA sites, and we hope that will be the same case here.
Okay. Another question about the park for MRCA. Are there any plans to prevent homeless encampments within the park?
Absolutely. That's part of our regular patrol. And in working with the county, depending on the jurisdictions, we have been doing that. Part of a recent analysis has been to also make sure that there's priority in making sure that those actually don't have time to establish in these high fire severity zones. And so that's definitely a priority for the MRCA. Procedures and all of that, we can have some more information with our rangers if that's necessary.
Okay. I know we're getting close to time, but let me check to see if there are more questions. Rachel, I see you popping up.
Yeah, we are at questions of, I think we've gotten to all of them at this point. So I think we've hit all of them at this point. Thank you so much for that. I know that was kind of like that was a lot. Thank you everyone for answering them and for taking those questions. And for everyone for submitting them. Will, can you advance to the next slide? I just want to make sure that everyone can see. So if we did not get to your question or you have additional follow-up questions from this, the latest updates will again be on the park on MRCA's project website listed here. The recording will be posted as well as the slide deck from tonight. I've listed Julian's contact information here from MRCA. If you have questions about the current site, I have David's contact information here from CEO Real Estate Division listed. We're going to make sure that we stay in touch with you all as the project continues to evolve. But I want to thank everybody for joining from the community tonight, and of course from our partners from MRCA and our various agencies who have joined. Really appreciate everyone's time this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.